Presentation is called the appearance reality distinction versus the subjectivist view of truth. And so, starting off, I start with the true and false representations. And my paper explores the allegory of the cave first. It is about a story about prisoners who are chained up in a cave and can only see shadows on the wall, and they believe that to be reality. The figures believe that the shadows are true objects when in fact they're just distorted version created by the puppeteers behind them. And that is all they know. That's all they've ever known. And then one day a prisoner escapes, and he's not prepared to see the world as it truly is. He returns to the cave, and it's all a metaphor about how we're born into ignorance and must strive to seek true knowledge, and like actively participate in it. And so, true representations are those that accurately reflect reality, um, such as when the prisoner escaped the cave. And a false representation are those that do not accurately reflect reality, such as the shadows. And so these false representations, more examples would be perceptual illusions, optical illusions, and magic, which we will further go into later in this presentation. And so next is Protagoras' and Socrates' views on truth. Socrates argues that perception alone cannot lead to knowledge or science, and that truth cannot be determined solely by duration of time or appearance. Um, and that is more of going into a subjective view of truth. Protagoras' dictum states that, or it's the idea, man is the measure of all things, meaning that each individual's individual perception and of reality and their opinions are true for them. Everything is relative to them. That is their own truth. And yeah, their perception is relative, which goes into the subjectivity of it all. So Socrates argues that not every opinion of every man is true, and if someone else's opinion is true, it must be accepted that your own belief cannot always be true. Um, which actively goes against that every opinion is true to them, but it is really not. And so the coexistence of Socrates and Protag's views, so they can coexist and they don't necessarily have to conflict with each other. But their stretch in the limits of how far they go only applies so far. And so some things can be objectively determined through reasoning and reflection, while others are subjective and dependent on individual perception, such as science and art. So math and science are fields that are based in objectivity and truth, but certain circumstances as in certain circumstances, subjectivist view could be a big factor in making new discoveries. If there's some unprecedented idea that is gonna like reinvent the wheel for all of us, and it might be only one man that believes in it, and it might be his sole view until it gets proven as fact, and everything gets changed and reworked around that. And that's not to say that it's going to be completely subjective forever, as then it would turn into like an objectively, or not an objective truth, but more of like an objectively accepted truth, where we believe it is widely in our culture or in society. And so music is another field that is dominated by objectivity based in music theory, but it absolutely does not mean that that's the final straw in what music is good or not. A subjectivist view of truth is a big factor in all aesthetic taste. Um, if you have pure music theory alone, I'm sure you could make like a decent sounding song. You use proper time signatures and the mathematics are all there and right. But when it comes down to it, if someone thinks that it's basic or it's just like it's just not for everyone, it doesn't have to be. And that's how most art is. It's not going to be for everyone. There's always going to be someone, and so it's subjective. The reasons why we like the art is subjective. And if you do like music theory, then that is kind of like a subjective thing that you like. Not everybody likes um not everybody likes everything. And so going down further, appearance reality distinction, it refers to the difference between what things appear to be and what they actually are. It's important in understanding how we organize things as people, as humans, and interpret information and put it into context. So seeing is believing, but believing does not always imply that what you're seeing is true. Bertrand Russell, which is the person that created or founded this, The distinction believe that we are the final arbiters of our reality, and what we believe to be there is, or what we believe to be there, we perceive it to be there. Um, and there's no way to objectively check that we're not like in a simulation. He doesn't say that specifically, but essentially that if reality is not what we believe it to be, then there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can check for there. We just kind of have to believe that it is there or believe that it could not be. And it is something that you cannot objectively prove here, or, prove or disprove. But so the compatibility of the appearance reality distinction and the subjectivist view of truth. A purely subjectivist view of truth is incompatible with the appearance reality distinction because when you apply them both together, the understanding that objective truths appear true because they most likely are. Certain things are going to be objective facts. 1 plus 1 is probably going to equal 2. Um, that's not really going to be a subjective thing. And if it is, someone changes it, someone makes 1 plus 1 3, then that is going to be the new objective truth that we all follow. Which that would have crazy consequences. But so yeah, it's a subjective view, aesthetic taste, our own perception of colors. All of that is completely subjective and does not fall into something that you can absolutely define as objectively good for everyone. Um, but you still can apply objective truths into art, into music, and but in the end, it's all subjective. And so, what does each of us having our own truth mean? Um, the idea that each individual has their own truth is known as subjectivism, where truth is based on individual perception. Protag's dictum, man is the measure of all things, suggests that each individual's perception and opinion is true for them and only them. Socrates argues that if each person is the measure of their own wisdom, there can be no objective truth or knowledge. Um, Nothing would be concrete or anything. Therefore, it's possible to accept subjectivism, subjectivist view of truth, but you also have to recognize that some things have to be objectively determined using reasoning, reflection, and others are just subjective, independent on individual perception, and always will be. Um, and yeah, no, that's my presentation. Um, I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry it's late, and I know it is not the best situation for me to be turning this in right now, but I really do appreciate everything that you've done this year, and yeah, I hope you have a great semester.